All right, we are here on the Trent Acid Tribute Radio Show, and on the line with us we have Pryme Tyme Amy Lee. Amy, how are you doing?
Tremendous. How are you guys doing?
Could be doing a lot better, of course. We're here not, to mourn, but we are here to celebrate the life that was Michael Verdi. And with that being said, we have a couple of questions to ask you, being that you knew Trent or Michael very well. My first question I actually wanted to ask you was, what do you feel Trent wants his fans to remember most about him?
That he was dedicated a billion%, not 1,000, not 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000% to his wrestling. I mean, his wrestling was all he knew. I mean, he had no trade. He had no real education. The only education he had was professional wrestling. And I think that, I know from my experiences watching him in the ring, he gave 1,000,000,000% every time. He never cheated the fans. They never walked away and said, wow, Trent was off tonight, or wow, Trent robbed us in that match, or no, Trent wasn't too good tonight. If anything, they were like, wow, he shocked me. Did you see what he did? He always wanted to up himself one more. And he just got better and better and better and better as the years went on.
So would you say that's what stuck out most to you about Trent, is that he always tried to top his last match?
Yeah, it's funny. I met Trent when he was just a teenager, and it was him and Johnny Kashmir, Nick Berg, Z-Bar, and Billy Real all worked out under the Pitbulls, Gary Wolf and Anthony. And, I walked in there one time and I saw Trent jumping around like a monkey, and I said something to Gary. I was like, who the hell's this kid, and where'd you find him? And he said, Billy Real brought him down one day and said he wanted to do pro wrestling. He loved it. He said, kid's good. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of raw talent. I said, you're not kidding. I said, he's doing stuff that, guys do 3-4 years into their career. They get brave to do. He wasn't reckless in the ring. He was more like fearless in the ring. He was never afraid to get hurt. He was never afraid to jump around. He was always the first one to jump off the top of the cage or swing off a rope or, go through a table. He never had a problem with any of that. And I think that's what made him so successful, is he really didn't fear anything. He wasn't afraid of anything. He wasn't afraid of getting hurt. He wasn't afraid of dying, basically. He just, he kind of looked at fear and kind of laughed at it and said, take me if you can. Take your best shot at me. And I think that's what made him very successful is, some of us, we like to wrestle safe. We have real jobs. We have families. Trent didn't have all that. Trent just had Trent. What you see is what you got. He wasn't a fancy guy. He didn't have cars. He didn't have, oodles and oodles of money or anything but he had a very strong fan base, which is a rarity. I mean, we all have wrestlers we like and all, but I mean, he was one of the guys that his fan base, every time he wrestled, just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you ever watch a DVD that he's on, you could just, as soon as his music would play and he would come out, the place just exploded. And to me, that's magic, and that's a rarity, because so many people wrestle for many, many years and try to accomplish that. And Trent did it without blinking an eye.
I would have to agree with you. I've seen many of Trent's matches. Of course, he is the originator of the dollar bill gimmick. But
yeah. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you about that dollar bill. Let me tell you, those women. I witnessed it for myself. Those women, they weren't throwing dollar bills down his pants. They were throwing $20 bills, $100 bills. That's how close they wanted to get to him. That's how infatuated the women wrestling fan base was infatuated with him. They craved him. I mean, he made them ooze. He made their knees knock and everything. And he didn't do anything spectacular in the sense of the way he wasn't a Casanova with them all. He just was nice. He was not vicious at all. He was a genuinely nice person who had demons. We all have demons. Unfortunately, he lost the battle with his demon. It eventually got the better of him. I mean, even with all his demons and his problems and his worries, and he never missed a beat in the ring. He never ever let that affect his wrestling. If anything, when he had his legal issues and went away for a while, he was upset that he was going to miss dates, because he was one of those ones that didn't want to miss a date. He loved it so much that, it was almost like an addiction for him. It's a shame. I mean, he was such great talent. Such a great talent. I mean, I can't emphasize it enough. And the women, I just watched them. They falled all over him. And he just was, he didn't do anything. Like, he didn't say, oh, you're the most gorgeous woman in the world, or he didn't BS them or nothing. He was like the Pied Piper of Punani and the wrestlers. Like, all these women wanted him, and he never took them up on it. He was just like, yeah, okay. He was just like, whatever. I always said Trent's girlfriend, mistress, and wife was pro wrestling. That's the God's honest truth. He was married to pro wrestling. I mean, if you think about it, if you ever seen him at a show or anything, he never came in with, a bunch of girls, or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, he had the offers. Even the guys, Trent, I'll drive you to a show. Trent, just to be in the same car with you, I'll drive you to a show. People constantly were at his beck and call. And he never, he honestly never took advantage of it. Never took advantage of it. Never.
If you were to write a book about Trent's life, what would you call the title?
I would call it The Acid Test, because he always pushed that envelope, whether it was in his personal life or whether it was in wrestling. He always pushed the envelope. Okay, and he was always playing with acid and mixing it and doing crazy things, and between the drugs and the crazy moves he would do, and there'd be days on end. I mean, he would do tours and not even sleep and stuff like that. I mean, he always tried to go one step. How far can I go this time? It's like somebody with a big leaky tank of acid, and he's running with it. He's doing a marathon, and he wants to see how much he can carry before he gets burned. And he's gone a long time, and unfortunately, he got burnt. And it's a shame. It is a shame.
I would have to agree with you. My co-host Missionary has a few questions for you. So Missionary, go ahead, man.
I wanted to know,
sure.
In your opinion, what was Trent Acid's crowning achievement or moment in his career?
What was some of it? You know what? I think the fact, I can't personally name every one of his matches. I was like, how do I put it? I was like a mommy figure to him when we were at shows, like I was like a big sister or like a mommy type thing. And, anytime I saw him, he always went out of his way to speak. And I mean, I knew him since he was, we would call a pup. So, I mean, like someone like Missy would better know his career in that aspect of his life. I know he was very proud when he was very young and went over to Japan. He was all excited about that, and he was successful. A lot of guys go to Japan, they get their asses handed to them, they come back with their tails between their legs. Right. Not him. He survived. Yeah. He survived it. He's done cuffs and gauges. He's done so much stuff that, to list it all, it would take another whole show, So I think the one thing with Trent, I think, his greatest accomplishment was every time he went out there, he got better and better.
Speaking of the accomplishment, what do you think Trent's biggest goal in life was?
To be the best he could be in the ring. I honestly do. I think, like I said, wrestling was his mistress, his girlfriend, his wife, his companion. You took that away from him. You took, there was no Trent Acid. If Trent was alive today and the doctor said, Trent, you can't wrestle or you'll die, he'll say, oh, well, I guess I'm dying because I'm wrestling. I mean, that's how addicted he was to it.
Right.
And, I mean, it breaks my heart. I mean, I went to the funeral and there was such a great turnout to pay respect to him from, like Todd Gordon was there and Bob Ortiz, and of course Cashmere, Missy Sampson, Nick Berg, Z-Bar, Billy Reel, Gary Wolf was there. I mean, there was guys that traveled from New York that worked shows with him. Guys, from down south that came up to pay their homage or respect to him. And then when they offered this Trent Acid Memorial show, I mean, Johnny Cashmere, Missy Sampson were just overwhelmed with the contacts. I want to work it. I want to work it. I want to work it. Trent was the kind of guy that he like I said before, what you see is what you got. Mm-hmm. He wasn't fake. He wasn't phony. Hey, he's come to the shows with his demons flashing in front of him. He was high and stuff like that. We're not going to sugarcoat any of this, but high, straight, whatever. The man just, he knew the ring. The ring was his house. He owned it. And without a doubt, for me, I find that a shame that such a talent did not get the opportunity to be on TV, a pay-per-view where millions, billions, or trillions could see him wrestle. That to me was very heartbreaking because that was one guy I always thought should have been up on one of the top leagues. Not at TNA. I thought he was too good for TNA. I always thought he was WWE status. I always did. You know what? Before the Hardy Boys, there was Trent Acid and Johnny Cashmere. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Hardy Boys came around, but Trent and Johnny were doing that shit when they were pups.
Right.
So they were even doing that stuff when they were like 12 years old. So, you know, like, I always say the Hardy Boys copied off the Backseats, not the Backseats off the Hardy Boys. So everything you see the Hardy Boys do, those boys doing when they were just hitting puberty.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Who was some of Trent Acid's heroes, or who do you think his inspiration in life was?
You know what? As for that, like I said, I never like got super in-depth conversations that way with him. But I think what I can say about Trent is he respected those that would go into the ring and give 1,000%. Anybody that went out there just to put themselves over, he always said something to him. He never hesitated to open his mouth. And, you know, I had the privilege of wrestling him. And he made me, I mean, it was like Ric Flair putting over Frankie Williams, to be honest with you. I mean, we're two different caliber of workers and everything. You know, I mean, he's a phenomenal wrestler. I'm more of a brawler. And he made me look like $1 billion. He could take a guy that just learned how to bump and make him look like Ric Flair. And that is a God-given talent. That is not something you learn. That is something you're born with. And that's something that Trent had. And, you know, like inspiration-wise, I think if he saw a move or he saw a match he liked, he would pick what he liked from that match and he would incorporate it into his style. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's times where, you know, like Ring of Honor said to him, oh, you got to be more like CM Punk. He's like, yeah, but you booked Trent Acid. You didn't book CM Punk. Right. Well, we want you more like CM Punk. Do you want CM Punk or do you want Trent Acid? That was his question. And I have to agree with him. Are you booking Trent Acid or are you booking CM Punk? If you're booking CM Punk, book CM Punk. If you're booking Trent Acid, you're booking Trent Acid. You know, Absolutely. Don't ask Trent Acid to become someone he's not, and don't ask someone to become Trent Acid because they're not. There's only one Trent Acid.
What's the and not just on a personal level, but what's the one thing about Trent you'll miss?
Me, honestly, walking into the locker room and seeing that big ass smile of his, drop his bag and give me the biggest hug ever, and he always watched out for the women wrestlers on the show to get your pay. Who's giving you? Anybody giving you a hard time? Come sit with me. Yo, they're giving you. Don't get your hands dirty. I'll take care of it. Like he was very, very loyal, and I can't. It's funny because you always hear people with drug habits are nasty, liars, thieves, cheats, scumbags. To me, he wasn't that. I never saw that side of him, and you know. He was always very good-hearted, always appreciative, always respectful. You know, so it was kind of like it was weird. He wasn't your typical substance abuse person. He was, you know, he was not malicious. He was not vicious. He didn't steal. I've been in locker rooms. I handled my purse. One time I was going to a WEW show. He came by because Missy was running the locker room. And Missy Sampson, he came by and I was like, shit. I was like, I gotta go out. I go, I need somebody to watch my purse. He goes, what do you need, mommy? I said, here, this is my pay envelope. This is all the money I got. He stood right there where I left him and I came back and boom, there it was. Those guys would have ran and said, fuck her, stupid bitch. And I personally never had a problem with him. Never was disrespectful, never raised his voice, never yelled at me, never was nasty to me. I mean, he was a gentleman. It's funny. He was generally a gentleman. I always said like him and Cashmere and Nick Burke and Z-Bar, they were never nasty to me. They were never rude. They were never disrespectful. They always treated me with the utmost respect and they always treated me as one of theirs. I was part of their clique, and I always appreciated that, you know, because sometimes you're in a strange locker room working for a new promotion. You don't know anybody but maybe one person, and that one person's like, baby, I'm sweet, and you're on your own. Not him. He was like, come with me. Nice. Yo, this is my girl. He would always like a dog peeing on a tree. This is my girl right here. This is my girl. And that's another thing. I'll miss those entrances of his, and you know, his high flying moves, and you know, his little gestures and little facials in the ring. I mean, he was all around package. I mean, he had a good build to him for his size. He had charisma. He could wrestle, and he was a crowd pleaser. Yeah. Good or bad, the crowd loved him. You know.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Now, are you going to be a part of Acid Fest coming up?
I am. It's going to be Annie Social, who Trent and I trained actually. I had showed her more of the charisma, selling. He showed her more of the technical things. Missy Sampson and myself, and we're going against Roxy Compton, who also Trent helped out a lot, Alir Littlefeather, who was someone he worked with a lot, and Detox, which was another guy he trained. So, you know, he's got friends and he's got people he trained. I mean, he worked with me in the ring on some certain moves and stuff like that. He'd like, throw me around, mama. He would let me and Antisocial beat the shit out of him in the ring. And never complained. Never complained. He never complained about putting anybody over. Never complained. Never. Never. Never in my presence. I've been around 21 years. I've never seen him. I've never seen him. He'll be like, all right. He'll go up to Todd and go, all right, Pop, what am I doing tonight? Well, Trent, when you do this, this is, okay, is that all you want me to do? Or can I do this and this and this with it? And Todd was like, well, if you think he's going to add to the match, then do it. And he's like, well, I think he's going to add to the match. And guess what? It did. So he knew his shit. You know, so, but yeah, I'm definitely, and I'm honored. As soon as I heard about the show, I was out of town, and I had contacted Antisocial because I heard she was on and said, yo, if you need anybody, I'm there. I contacted Kashmir. They were like, Kashmir was like, absolutely, want you part of it. I'm honored. It's a privilege for me, you know, it's to pay homage to a good guy, to like my little brother, my little Peck's bad boy, you know. It's just, I wish it was for something happier. But I think Trent will be looking down, and I personally think that he'll know that he was highly, not only loved, but highly respected, not only as talent, but as a fellow wrestling brother. So, and that's important in this business, because sometimes you're alone, and that's a scary thing.
Very true. I'd like to thank you for coming on, and of course, you know, I want to put out there before we let you go, for the fans that are listening and want to check out Acid Fest, even if you can't make it, you can donate to acidmemorial@AOL.com. All the money is going to the family, so I want to put that out there, and I want to thank you again for coming on.
Oh, I want to thank you for allowing me to express on a great guy. I mean, I don't care what anybody else says. I'm telling you how I knew Trent, and that's how I always remember Trent. And, you know, this is not one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, it's a scam. It's a genuine thing. It's to help the family out with the funeral expense. You know, like I said, he wasn't a fan. Everybody knew Trent was a very wealthy man. So, you know, you know what? $5 is $5 if you could donate it. I know they're going to be selling T-shirts. Probably a memorial photo, a memorial pin, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to have DVDs selling for this too. But all proceeds do go to the family. It's a PayPal account all set up that was set up. So it's not a scam, you know. Like some of these charity things, people are leery. They're like, oh, they're going to keep the money. Yeah. Nope, all money goes to the family. As a matter of fact, the family will be there that night to accept the funds that were raised that night.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, and good luck at Acid Fest. It's going to be a huge event.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys, and good luck to you guys with your show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.